Lesson 3. In this lesson, you will learn how to describe objects with different adjectives and also how to say the word but in Polish. You will also learn where to put the stress in Polish words and also how to pronounce the sounds ż, w, r. Big in Polish is duży, duży. This ż sound in this word is pronounced similarly as in the English word pleasure. Pleasure. But the Polish sound ż is much stronger, much harder. Ż, ż. Duży. So how would you say, this is a big house? To jest duży dom. My house is big. Mój dom jest duży. My house is not big. Mój dom nie jest duży. And here note that the nie is located before the verb. Nie jest. In English is not, and in Polish is not is. Nie jest. Mój dom nie jest duży. This is a big store. To jest duży sklep. This is not a big store. To nie jest duży sklep. A bank in Polish is bank. Bank. This is a big bank. To jest duży bank. This is not a big bank. To nie jest duży bank. A hotel in Polish is hotel. Hotel. So you might hear the difference. In English it's hotel, in Polish hotel. Hotel. The biggest difference here is the stress. In Polish, the stress is on the ho. Ho. Hotel. This is because in Polish, the word stress falls almost always on the second to last syllable. So the penultimate syllable. Hotel. So tel will be the last syllable, but ho is counting from the end, the second to last syllable. Hotel. It is a big hotel. To jest duży hotel. It is not a big hotel. To nie jest duży hotel. Small in Polish is mały. Mały. This w letter is pronounced similarly as in the English word window. W. So this is like an L with a line. W. Mały. This is a small hotel. To jest mały hotel. This is a small bank. To jest mały bank. This is not a small bank. To nie jest mały bank. This is a small store. To jest mały sklep. This is not a small store. To nie jest mały sklep. Is this a small store? Would be. Czy to jest mały sklep? Or to jest mały sklep? Is this a big store? Would be. Czy to jest duży sklep? Or to jest duży sklep? And if we want to say or, like in the middle of the question, this or that, then we will say czy. So the same word as it was in the previous questions. So asking small or big would be mały czy duży. Is this a small or a big store? Would be. Czy to jest mały czy duży sklep? Or to jest mały czy duży sklep? So in this question we have czy twice. The first czy at the beginning of the question is just simply symbolizing the type of question. Is this? Does it? And here as a reply would be yes and no. But when we have another czy in the middle of the question, then it refers to select one of two things. Duży czy mały, big or small. So here we focus our intention not to reply yes and no, but really to pick a specific answer. So maybe another example, how would you say, is this a small or a big hotel? Czy to jest mały czy duży hotel? Or to jest mały czy duży hotel? Yes or no would be tak czy nie? You or I? Ty czy ja? Here or there? Tu czy tam? Are you here or there? Jesteś tu czy tam? Are you or are you not here? Jesteś czy nie jesteś tu? Expensive in Polish is drogi. Drogi. And here we have this r sound. R. It's like in Spanish. R. Por favor. R. Drogi. So it's not drogi, not an English r, but a rolling r. R. Drogi. An expensive hotel would be drogi hotel. This is an expensive hotel. To jest drogi hotel. This is not an expensive hotel. To nie jest drogi hotel. This is an expensive store. To jest drogi sklep. This is not an expensive store. To nie jest drogi sklep. Cheap would be tani. Tani. a cheap hotel. Tani hotel. This is a cheap hotel. To jest tani hotel. This is not a cheap hotel. To nie jest tani hotel. Is this a cheap or an expensive hotel? Czy to jest tani czy drogi hotel? Or to jest tani czy drogi hotel? Excuse me, is this a cheap or an expensive store? Przepraszam, czy to jest tani czy drogi sklep? Or, przepraszam, to jest tani czy drogi sklep? This is a cheap and small hotel. To jest tani i mały hotel. This is a cheap hotel and this is a cheap hotel. To jest tani hotel i to jest tani hotel. This is a cheap hotel and this is an expensive hotel. To jest tani hotel, a to jest drogi hotel. So here we have a contrast. But in Polish is ale. Ale. This is a cheap hotel, but it is small. To jest tani hotel, ale jest mały. This is an expensive hotel, but it is big. To jest drogi hotel, ale jest duży. Now let's summarize. First, let's go through all the new words that occurred in this lesson. Duży. Duży. Mały. Mały. Drogi. Drogi. Tani. Tani. Bank. Bank. Hotel. Hotel. Ale. Ale. Czy. Czy. And now let's focus on the pronunciation. Let's see which new sounds occurred in this lesson. Let's see some examples and what would be the approximate English sound. B. B. Bank. So the B is the same as in the English word bank. H. H. Hotel. Hotel. And it's similar as in the English hotel. W. W. Mały. Mały. As in the English word window. W. Then it's r. R. Drogi. Drogi. There is no equivalent sound in English, so maybe Then in Spanish, you can find this kind of sound, like in the words por favor. R, r, very rolling r. Then we have ż, ż, duży, duży. Like in the word pleasure, pleasure. But the Polish ż is much harder. Ż. I will also mention about the stress in the words in Polish. So the rule is that we put the stress on the second to last syllable. So we need to count from the end the second syllable, and there is the accent. For example, hotel. Hotel. So we focus on the ho. This is where the stress falls. Or Monika. Ni is the second from the end syllable. Monika. Telefon. Telefon. Again, le is where the stress falls. Telefon. And some grammar summaries. We can use the ch at the beginning of the question, but also as a conjunction or. And the purpose of this ch is to pick one alternative from two. For example, czy to jest hotel, czy bank? Tak, czy nie? Also remember where to place the nie negation word. It will be placed before the verb, not after. So, to nie jest. Or ja nie jestem. Let's finish the lesson with a dialogue. Try to listen and understand as much as possible. Then compare with the English version. Przepraszam, gdzie jest mój hotel? Tam. Czy mój hotel jest duży czy mały? Duży. A czy mój hotel jest drogi czy tani? Drogi. That would be all for lesson 3. Well done!